Good morning, everyone. This morning here at Empty Cloud Monastery, I'm going to be speaking about the first chapter or book in the Dhammapada. This is actually one of the most well quoted. So some of the verses in here are probably the most well-quoted verses from the Buddha's teaching. And Dhammapada is a collection of verses, and they're categorized. This one doesn't have a really specific category, but there are related verses in this first book or Wagga. So this is Yamakavagga is how it's translated. It's got twin verses or pairs, as how Bhante Sujato has it translated. And so Sud and Manal are here. Welcome. I have both Bhante Sujatos, and I have Ayyā Suvijjānā. He has these books for free distribution. This is one quite beautiful cover, very nice presentation. And Ayyā Suvijjānā attempts to keep the poetic aspect, but also true to his understanding of the Pali and his understanding of what's being said. And the translators I'd like to refer to are monastic because they're embedded, they're like absorbed into the practice and the Dhamma. So, and they're coming from a Buddhist perspective, and not all translators do. So I trust those translators' understanding of it better. And then I also have the advantage of having on Sutta Central, if most people maybe have heard about it so far, it says Anatta is coming also. We have 3 people so far, and there may be other people that haven't put up their names. But I see there's at least 3, and I'm not seeing. Oh, it says that there's 8 viewing. Okay, so welcome everyone. So I just gave a brief introduction about a little bit about the Dhammapada. There's often background stories. Well, there's a collection of background stories, but I'm not going to discuss those. I don't have them memorized either, so I can't answer. I didn't bring this. Some editions of the Dhammapada that have the commentarial stories, but most of the verses have some. One verse or a collection of verse will have some incident that happened, and the Lord Buddha made what's called an utterance. He will, and that's a teaching. It's a very brief teaching that's in poetic verse. So, and this is common in the teachings. You'll find the verses throughout. Even in the Majjhima Nikaya, you'll find verses. Mostly it's prose. There's a story, a background story, and then a discussion, and then there may be prose and a verse in. It's usually always prose, but then some verse may appear here and there, just kind of to sum up what was discussed. So I will start now, because I think there's probably enough people, and if you don't get in quite on time, then that's what happens. You don't get the beginning part. So this is Bhante Sujato's translation. What I'm going to do is go through slowly. I'll read Ajahn Thanisro's translation as well, so you can get a little bit of a comparison of how they understand things. And I will make my commentary on it myself. Just my commentary is just what I understand is being said. If it may not be so clear, as poetry doesn't necessarily have all the background. You might have to have some understanding from other sources. So I will do my best to interpret what this is said, but I would also like to give time for people to reflect on these verses. So this is Yamakavagga, and this translation, Ajahn Thanisro, I'm just going to insert this to begin with. This is usually stated as mind. And he says intention. So if you're used to this verse translated differently, then just remember that this, when he's talking about intention, he's talking about an object, aspect of the mind. And intention is one of the descriptions of Mano. It's Manopumba Pubang Gama Dhamma. So Mano Seta Mano Maya Manasa Manasache Padutena Basatiwa Karotiwa Tatonam Dukamanwe Chakamwa Wahato Padam. So that's the Pali. And the translation of Mano is, he says, is intention, and many people say mind. So I will read the verse now. Intention shapes experiences. Intention is first. They're made by intention. If with corrupt intent you speak or act, suffering follows you like a wheel, the ox foot of the ox's foot. So that's the Ajahn Sujato's Bhante, he prefers Bhante Sujato's translation, and this is Ajahn Thanisro, and he also says pairs. He translates it as pairs. And then Ajahn Thanisro translates Mano as heart. So heart and mind are often how Chitta and Mano is translated. So the heart, mind. Phenomena are produced by the heart, ruled by the heart, made of the heart. If you speak or act with a corrupted heart, then suffering follows you as the wheel of the cart, the track of the ox that pulls it. So that's the first verse. And then after I read the second verse, I'm going to just give you time to reflect. Intention shapes experiences. Intention is first. They're made by intention. If with pure intent you speak or act, happiness follows you like a shadow that never leaves. Phenomena are produced by the heart, ruled by the heart, made of the heart. If you speak or act with a calm, bright heart, then happiness follows you like a shadow that never leaves. So that was just a very brief meditation on those two verses. That's the first two of the twin verses. And when I hear these verses, what strikes me is that the first one is talking about the corrupt or defiled or impure heart or mind or intention. Your intentions coming from your heart or mind. And if you have corrupted intentions and you act out of speech or bodily actions, then suffering follows you like the wheel of an ox's foot. So then the ox is pulling this cart, and the cart is full of all the memories of the bad behavior. This is what I picture in my mind. This is like very heavy, it's a burden. It's burdensome. But then if you speak or act with pure intent, with a mind of pure intent or heart with pure intent, then happiness follows you like a shadow that never leaves. And that sounds so beautiful. It's like a very light, it's you don't have to worry about it at all. And then I also think about the sun is shining on you. So now we're going to the second set. This is a verse 3 and 4 in the pairs. And this is Bhante Sujato's translation again. And I'll do the same thing where I'll read them through, and then we can just have a moment to reflect on them, just a moment of meditation on these. I encourage, I'm doing this to try to get, maybe some people are already doing this, but to reflect. This is a kind of meditation to reflect on a teaching. You can even just take one word. I've been with people, we've discussed one word at length, a Pali term. So I'll give the Pali as well. I'll start out with the Pali. Akochimam awadimam ajinimam ahasime ye chatam upanai hanti veram tesam nasamati. That's the first of this pair. Akochimam awadimam ajinimam ahasime ye chatam dupa panai hanti veram tesu pasamati. So this is Bhante Sujato's translation here. They abused me, they hit me, they beat me, they robbed me. For those who bear a grudge, such a grudge, hatred never ends. They abused me, they hit me, they beat me, they robbed me. For those who bear no such grudge, hatred has an end. I think that's pretty clear. I don't know if I need to say too much about it. This is Ajahn Chanisaro's translation of the same Pali. He insulted me, hit me, beat me, robbed me. For those who brood on this, hostility isn't stilled. He insulted me, he, she, they. They insulted me, they hit me, they beat me, they robbed me. For those who don't brood like this, hostility is stilled. So we'll just sit for about a minute, think about that. So these verses and the one that follows, this is actually all together. So I'll read this one now before I speak about these. It's actually the way this is set up. They're twinned or paired, but then there's also a comment in this. This is, unlike those who don't realize that we're here on the verge of perishing, those who do, their quarrels are stilled. So that's Ajahn Thanissharo's, that we're all subject to sickness, aging, and death. So that's how he's translated this last part. For those who bear no such grudge, hatred has an end. For never is hatred settled by hate. It is only settled by love. This is an eternal truth. So this is talking about forgiveness and internally and externally, because this has gone through human history, war after war after war, and just conflict after conflict after conflict. If one wants to retaliate, so the mind is totally unsettled, never at peace, and then we just add conflict to conflict, and bearing a grudge is harmful to ourselves more than anything else. There's this word Ajahn Thanissaro has translated as settled. The hatred is never settled by hate. And Ajahn Thanissaro has hostilities are stilled through non-hostility. And he's translated that samanti is stilled, settled, stilled. But I looked, this word I've heard translated otherwise. It says ceases or appease. They're not, it doesn't end. I think I like that idea of it not ending. I mean, it's like they're settling and stilling, but actually ceasing, that hatred ceases, and hatred needs to cease in our own hearts. This is this path of purification. You know, the starting verse was talking about acting or speaking from a pure state of mind. So if our minds are pure from hatred, hatred is one of the, or anger, hatred, dosa, all that, the spectrum of resentment, hostility. This is a unwholesome root, and the mind is never pure if it's still kind of, and then if it's brooding over something that happened long ago or even a short time ago, then there's this, there's this aspects of these two things, unsettledness, unstillness of mind. So we're never happy. And so when we're not happy, then our people around us may not be happy because we may be acting in ways that are unpleasant to others or harmful to others. So this is what this is about. It's not justifying if someone did something wrong to us or to a group of people that we're associated with, or somewhere in our history. There's a resentment that goes back generations, and people are hating each other for things that happened generations ago, hundreds of years ago, and there's still this hatred and mistrust and resentment. And so hatred isn't ending that way. It's just being it's an inherit. People are inheriting hatred, and so then people keep reacting in the same ways instead of seeing each other's humanity. I mean, we can't even see each other's humanity. How can we? I mean, as Buddhists, we're supposed to not even harm an ant. And we see, if we become very sensitive, we see that all living creatures they cherish their own lives, and they feel pain, and they suffer. And why do we want to bring more suffering in the world? We don't, we shouldn't. This is contrary to the Buddhist teaching anyway. So at least as humans, we should try to respect one another and be forgiving, and at the very least, to eradicate the hatred in our own hearts. So this is my, what do you call it, sermon connected to this verse. So this is a true eternal truth, that this is what the Lord Buddha says. If you would like to take in the Buddhist teaching, then this is really basic. This is extremely basic. And it benefits us more than anyone else if we can eradicate hatred in our hearts, because we do the most harm to ourselves with hatred, internally and externally. So I will go on to the next verse, and I may take less time with some of these verses, but this one verse about hatred is never settled by hate, but only settled by love. This is an eternal truth. I think this is often quoted, one of the more quoted verses in the Dhammapada. So this is shifting to a different topic, somewhat. We're starting out with hatred, and this is going into the realm of greed, this paired. So I'll have to give a little bit of explanation, a little bit more, because in the monastic practice, we work with what's called Subha and Asubha. And Asubha, maybe more people know about. Asubha has to do with non-beautiful or unattractiveness or repulsive, and so to overcome greed or lust or sexual desire, sometimes we look at the unattractive aspect of an object, and the object is in our mind. It's not like if we were having desire for a person. It's not like we're trying to put them down or make them into an object themselves, not the person, but it's our own attraction, our own what we're attracted to. We have to see the disadvantage, the danger, the unattractiveness, in order to work with that strong desire. And this is it can be useful to just balance the mind when we're what happens is we go to extremes where a situation or something, it seems so attractive and wonderful, and we get overcome with desire for it, and it may be not even appropriate for and so this happens in lay life too. And even like with food, we want to eat food that's inappropriate, or too much of something, tiny bit, a small amount of some sugary dessert may be okay, but maybe overeating certainly isn't. So for our health, and just if we're serious on the path, we have to look at our greed arising. So this is what this is about. We're talking about Subha, which is a sign of the beautiful. And that means that we're overly attracted to it. We're attached. We're lusting after whatever it is, greedy for it. So, so then I will read the verses so you have a little bit of understanding, and we'll just take a brief amount of time on these. Those who contemplate the beautiful, their faculties unrestrained, immoderate in eating, lazy, lacking energy, Mara strikes them down like a wind, a feeble tree. Those who contemplate the ugly, their faculties well restrained, eating in moderation, faithful and energetic, Mara cannot strike them down like the wind, a rocky mountain. I guess I'm going to skip Ajahn Nisro's translation because I spent a lot of time on the first verses, and I want to get through more of these. And it's pretty much the same. So if we focus on only like the yummy taste and not think about the the consequences later, then we're likely to overeat. That may be a brief comment I have to make. And the same with any other kind of thing that we might idealize and just focus on, and overlook what harm we may be causing by overindulging. So I will read this one. One who, not free from stains themselves, would wear the robe stained in ochre, bereft of self-control and of truth. They are not worthy of the ochre robe. One who has purged all their stains, steady in ethics, possessed of self-control and of truth, they are truly worthy of the ochre robe. So this is talking about a monastic. So no matter what kind of cloth we wear to cover our bodies and how much cloth and what color it is, if we're acting in an unethical manner, we're not deserving of this robe of a monastic. And then likewise, there's people living a household life that are just very exemplary, that they're just wonderful and really purifying their hearts. So, but this is specifically talking to the monastics of their. It doesn't matter if they're wearing a robe or not. If they're acting in a corrupt manner, they're really not worthy of that. So this is, this is, they're just paired, so they don't have a specific topic. So I'll just read through these a little bit. Thinking the essential is essential, seeing the essential as inessential. They don't realize the essential. For wrong thoughts are their pasture, so their domain. Having known the essential as essential and the inessential as essential, they realize the essential. For right thoughts are their pasture. So I'll read Ajahn Chittisharo's so we can get a little bit more, a slightly different take on it. Those who regard non-essence as essence and see essence as non-essence don't get to the essence, ranging about in wrong resolves. But those who know essence as essence and non-essence as non-essence get to the essence, ranging about in right resolves. So knowing what's important, what's essential. He's saying essence. That's interesting. Well, I think I'd like to open this up for questions. I'm not getting through all of this today. Let's see if there actually are any questions yet, as of yet. So more people have come in. Let's see, Jayanta, someone with Thai, or I don't know what script that is, I'm not sure. Marguerite D. Jissing, I hope I'm pronouncing your name right. Krishna. Okay, let's go down a little bit more. Let's see. That may be. Mud, Jack, Richard, Ram. Maybe Ram is trying to say something, but they're putting little icons in. And Bhumika and Sud has a question about essence. This is he's asking. Okay, let me put this up here. See if I can answer. I can't always know the minds of the translators. So it says, when he says essence versus non-essence, is he talking about permanence versus impermanence? Well, that's a good question. I don't think he's talking about, I think it's more about what's essential or essence. It's a kind of the what's central or what's at the heart of something. Ajahn Chittisharo's says essential. This one I haven't pondered as much, and I just heard this morning that I was leading the discussion. So let's see if I can find the word. Essence, the pith of a tree, the choicest part, the essential, excellent, strong. So this word has, this is all in the Pali a dictionary, Pali English dictionary that they have online here. I just clicked on the word and I found it. So that's pretty much what I was saying. Essence, or what's essential. Sara. It's Sara Martino. And Mati is wisdom is how it's translated. Sara is the heartwood, actually, is how I've heard it. This is the pith of a tree. Pith. I thought pith was substance coming out, but maybe that means. So the tree, the center of the tree, the hardest tree that's part of the tree that's used for lumber is the heartwood. So Sara is often the translation of this, and the choicest part. So we're confusing what's really important, what's really essential. What are we cultivating? What are we seeking in our lives? What are we just going after? Sense pleasures, going after material things, trying to power, so a lot of people are chasing after the wrong things in their lives, thinking that the inessential is essential. Well, we need our basic requisites of life, shelter, food, clothing, healthcare. Those are 4 requisites. So that's pretty essential, but this is sustaining our life. And what is the purpose of our life? So it says, wrong thoughts are their gochara, their pasture. So the range or pasture. So this is where the mind dwells more and what it feeds on. The mind is feeding on inappropriate desires and is motivated this way. This is wrong thoughts. Their thoughts are just roaming around in the inappropriate pastures, not really. Let's see. Yeah, I'm just looking at the Pali, what I understand the Pali. So this Samasankapa gochara is the thoughts are the right pasture, but here's Samasankapa, and so I think a lot of people would understand that as right intention or right thought. Samasankapa. That's what the second factor in the Noble Eightfold Path. So that's the gochara, that's the pasture of someone who's realizing what's essential. So in the Samma Sankappa, there's non-harming, there's as opposed to greed, there's renunciation. As opposed to thoughts of harming, there's thoughts of non-harm, which is that's compassion, and then non-ill will, as opposed to ill will. So we abandon the unwholesome thoughts, these unwholesome thoughts. So your mind is ranging. This is coming back to the mind here. So Samma Sankappa gochara, your pasture. So he's not talking about permanence versus impermanence. He's talking about what's important, what's essential, what's our heartwood, what's the choicest thing, the choicest, the essential, the excellent, strong. This is all translated of Sara, and Mati being wisdom. How this is broken up in this dictionary. So sometimes it breaks it up in a kind of a crazy way, but this is making sense to me the way they're translating it, the way Ajahn Chittisaro and Ajahn and Bhante Sujato are translating it. And it makes sense to me too. So, so no, it's not impermanence, it's what is important. So making what is important in our life the most essential. Okay, so Sud says that makes sense. And see, is there any more questions? We have a little bit more time, so I could read another verse. And are people maybe contemplating what they heard? I know this is going through a little bit different topics. Maybe I should have stopped at the first. That seems to often be, I think this is a little bit related. This next pair of verses. Just as rain seeps into a poorly roofed house, lust seeps into an undeveloped mind. Just as rain doesn't seep into a well-roofed house, lust doesn't seep into a well-developed mind. Okay, let's see if I can see. He's translating lust. So rago. So that's attachment, lust. It's also hue or dye. And this is where the we raga, see, we have raga and we raga. And raga is often translated as fading away, like the color is fading out of something. And so color, like color red or something like that, some bright, would be representing the raga. And that's fading away. Yeah. Ajahn Chittisaro translated, I just happened to catch from the last verse, right resolve, and that's how he translates Samma Sankappo. So this next one is, as rain seeps into an ill-thatched hut, so passion, the undeveloped mind, so that's raga. As rain doesn't seep into a well-thatched hut, so passion does not, the well-developed mind. So this is raga, passion, attachment is also another translation. So it doesn't necessarily, commonly, the lust started to just mean sexual lust at some point, but this word, you can lust after anything, like a piece of chocolate cake or something like that. You can lust after a Mercedes or Benz or something like that. So this is like your mind is just obsessed with the desire for something. And so this is seeping into one's heart or undeveloped heart or mind. Chittam. Chittam. This is how Ajahn Sujato translates chittam as mind in this case. And chitta is sometimes often translated as heart as well. So they both have mind here. They both translated as mind. So that's kind of interesting to compare. But this is a lot of times, even in the Western cultures, the heart is like something that leads us sometimes into mischief. Our desire is an ill-directed heart, or not so. So that's chitta. So you can. So when you're developing your mind, if your mind is well developed, then you'll be aware of the pull, and the pull towards things that are delightful. This is what the subha. If you actually, when you start understanding subha as opposed to asubha, so yeah, if you're just the sign of the beautiful. So externally, the sign of the beautiful is attractive things that catch your eye, or delightful contact at any of our senses. And someone is asking about well-developed. Oh, that's Sud again. Yes. So I'm answering your question. So when we're developing our minds, we start to observe things, and we get to know how our thoughts are being pulled one way or another, and how our desires spring up. And if we focus on the beautiful, this is the previous one that's talking about focusing on the beautiful, then we get ourselves into a lot of trouble, because this becomes the focus of our attention, and we're not seeing the essential. We're seeing the inessential. So we're just chasing after things that are pleasing to us, the things that are attractive to us, and then we become attached. So this is actually, these all kind of are leading into one another in a way. These verses, actually. So to develop our minds, and we observe this phenomena, we see, I see myself being attracted. I see myself starting to obsess about this. I see how, maybe hopefully not by making serious mistakes, but maybe little mistakes, like, oh, I ate too much or something like that. Oh, I purchased over my budget because I was wanting, something that was very beautiful, but it was beyond my budget, something like that. So we see maybe in minor things, the mistakes we make, then we start learning, okay, we're causing ourselves suffering this way. And so, but observing the mind, I'm about to reach for that. I'm seeing that attraction. And then we start using sense restraint. And this is the first thing that's taught to monastics, actually, is sense restraint. So we're aware of things that are delightful, but we don't allow the mind to become obsessed, overcome by thoughts of those things. And we certainly don't, like, if something that we want very dearly and it's not appropriate for us, we don't just keep looking at it. So this is physical restraint of the eye. So we won't necessarily look at it. And then internally, maybe the image of that comes up again and again. And then, or the memory of something that we wanted comes up again and again. But if we are aware of it and can abandon those thoughts, or redirect our mind to something else, then we don't get overcome by our raga. The raga doesn't infest the mind, so it starts becoming viraga. So actually, thinking about it, I could see if I have this image in my mind of something I want, and then it starts to just fade away. So this is a way of the raga fading away, the desire fading away. And so then I'm not compelled to act inappropriately. So this takes time. Like I said, sometimes it takes making hopefully only minor mistakes. Or by the time I was old enough when I went into monastic life that I could look back at the mistakes in my life and go, oh dear, yes, we don't want to do this again. So we might even have a storehouse of memories to contemplate if we start seeing ourselves heading in the wrong direction in our minds. And then, so that's seeing the danger. So there's a teaching about there's the gratification, understanding the gratification, the danger, and the escape. and so that there is gratification, since there is at the sense gates, all the sense gates. If there weren't gratification, then beings wouldn't be enamored by this contact at the sense spaces. But since there is gratification, beings are, and then we chase after things. And the danger is that things are impermanent, and there's also the danger of us getting into trouble by acting inappropriately. So if we're driven, if I'm driven by my raga, by my lust, by my desire, then I get into mischief. So, and I got into mischief before I was in ropes, and I know the pain and suffering was much greater than the gratification. So, so then I abandoned that habit, those behaviors, and then yeah, the escape is the actual abandoning of the desire, to the cause of us getting into trouble. And this is trouble of lifetime after lifetime after lifetime, chasing the desires of the senses, chasing after pleasure, and running away from displeasure, from pain, from suffering, and this constant endless cycle of rebirth. So I'm laughing because this is kind of comic relief to just giggle a little bit about it. But if we develop our minds, then we can avoid a lot of suffering, self-inflicted suffering. So yeah, so well-developed means just observing this whole phenomena in ourselves and not allowing ourselves to act inappropriately. So we've got 5 minutes left. I don't see any more questions. So Amaranta has come in, Anna, and then Sud is very, thank you so much for asking questions to this topic. Yeah, I just noticed how those related to one another. The one about, yeah, the Subhanupasam. Subhanupasa. So you have Subhanupasana. And this is a external, this is the wrong directed mind, just focusing on what's attractive. And the Asubha helps balance the mind. So seeing unattractiveness. It's like instead of having a more realistic view of things. So you can see the beautiful in the unbeautiful, and the unbeautiful in the beautiful, and that this balances the mind. It's another type of meditation practice, and it's not meant to be morbid or just to develop. I know it's often just asubha is often translated as disgust, but it's not to make you repulsive. But I think that's a misunderstanding of what you're trying to develop as far as your mind is. You don't want to develop aversion when you do this kind of a practice. You want to develop, let's see, the dictionary didn't splice this, so it can't understand what asubha nupasim. This is somehow they can't, the dictionary, the mechanism in the computer isn't somehow splicing it. But I can see pretty clearly myself just with my little understanding of Pali. But asubha, like I was saying, does have these really negative ways of translating it. For a contemplation, the mind should be balanced. It's to balance out the mind rather than to make one disgusted, totally disgusted, not averse. You may be turning away as that's another word that has a kind of negative nibbida. Also is kind of called disgust and things like that. So we've been going for a little over an hour now. And so well-developed, let's see, I'm used to a touch screen. So well-developed means becoming equanimous. I think it's becoming it's developing wisdom. And so with the wisdom and discernment, you become equanimous. It is an aid to equanimity. So yeah, so that you balance your mind by observing things carefully. You observe the impulses of the mind, and you're able, instead of just like a brute control of your mind and your actions, you have it's based on understanding, it's based on wisdom through your own careful observation. And you're using the Buddha's teaching as a framework to help you with this kind of the lens of the Dhamma to see things. And it's just like, oh, yes, I see this arising in my mind. This is what the Lord Buddha was talking about. I see something beautiful and I want it. I have to have it. And then I go, oh, that's kind of dangerous, isn't it? This is not appropriate. So we see those impulses, and then we learn just through observation. When I glance, I see something. If I don't obsess about it, my mind is much more peaceful. So this is developing equanimity, and that, but through wisdom, through the various practices that the Buddha has encouraged us to do. So understanding what the subha is, the beautiful, and the asubha, and balancing the two, then our minds become equanimous. So becoming equanimous. I guess that what you just said, yeah, but there is a process. there is a process that we go through. So it's after time, and I appreciate all your kind attention, and wishing you a wonderful day and peaceful and purified minds or intentions, hearts. And we can pay respect to the Buddha. I'm going to bow to this image here. If you have an image in your where you're sitting, you can bow there if you choose to. Have a good day.